and close. We can go ahead and close the object repository. Again, this is the object repository manager. And remember, here we're using a shared object repository, right? So again, when we're creating our tests, if I have a whole team of test automation developers, which you guys aspire to be, we don't want to reinvent the wheel and say if multiple people are working on the same web page, we don't want to have to recreate this thing every time, and then if something changes, have to make changes to multiple object repositories, right? So again, we have a shared object repository, and that's what we use as a team, right? So if one thing changes in the application again, we can make a change to the shared object repository, and then that will map, that change will be propagated to all the tests that use that shared object repository. We don't have to spend a lot of time updating multiple tests, okay? So, okay, I'll go ahead and close the object repository. Back to the test itself. If we look at this test, it's been parameterized already in some places. So if we look at line 20 here in the script, we see that we're calling this data table function here, data table home value from the DT global sheet. DT global sheet is just a built-in constant in the UFT application. So it's just a constant that's used to point and reference the global sheet down here in the global sheet in the application. So if we look down, and everyone should see the data tab, if you don't see it, if you do not see it, you click on view and you click on data, and then you will see this data sheet down here. So if I did not see this data sheet, I can close that. If I click on view data, that will pull up the Excel spreadsheet, which is called the default XLSX spreadsheet, which is stored underneath your test. So if we were to look at this test through Windows Explorer, we would see that there's a spreadsheet underneath this folder. Here we have the home value column, and the home value column is referenced by the data sheet. There cannot be any spaces within the column names. So if you notice there's underscores, we can use underscores, or we can just put down payment. Typically, I use underscores. It's all a matter of preference to separate words. And here we are parameterizing the home value, the down payment value, the down payment type, and the loan amount. Okay. So this is just a quick example of things that we've done already. So in terms of parameterization. All right. So this morning, what I want to go over. That's just a recap a little bit. Shamsu went over actions last week, so I don't have a copy of his test, but separating the test into multiple actions to perform different aspects of your test. So he can go over that further with you in the second half of the session. Let me see. He also went over checkpoints, so he'll go over a little bit of that. This morning, what I want to go over is a little bit of programming. So the foundation of everything when we're doing our scripting is actually programming, correct? So when you guys look at this code here, this is actually VB script on the screen again. So one aspect of becoming an expert in test automation is being able to actually manipulate the code that's generated, right? So if we were to, there's actually different views of the script here, and where is it? We can actually go to the keyword view. So if I wasn't an expert in this tool, this is a more simplified way of looking at the script. We don't use this where we are, but when you look at it, this is like the non-expert way of looking at this script, the same exact script in a different format. So last week's someone, their view actually went to this view, and we can actually understand what they were seeing until we saw their screen, and we saw that they were actually looking at this. This is called the keyword view. Okay. So this format's almost the same, but you manipulate your script by clicking on these different values, and this tells you the operation that's being performed. So our down payment, we're going to set the value from the data table, and here's where we go through and parameterize. Oops, didn't mean to change that. I'll have to go back to the regular script, so we can go back and view that. So now if we go back, we can go back and click on View, Editor, and that'll actually show. Okay. So that will actually go back and show the expert view, where we can actually add code and so forth and things like that. So down payment here, we'll go back and fix this. Maybe I shouldn't have to do this. All right. Let's go ahead and delete this line. All right, it's fixed. Can you bear with me for a second? I'll be right back. All right, so everyone should be on test 3 now. So for those of you who just joined, what we've done is we've taken test 1. So we haven't really performed anything yet. We've just gone and we've taken test 1, and we have actually just taken a copy of it and renamed it as test 3. So you're just going to click on File, Save As, and you're going to open your test 1 and save it as test 3, and that's where we currently are for anyone who's just joining us now. All right, the first thing we're going to do this morning, let's go ahead and we're going to create our first function. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this system util code here, and we're actually going to make a function out of it. Okay, so first steps, we're just going to copy that line, the system util.run line. I'm going to copy that. So you can just Control C, quick copy. And we're going to go down to the bottom of the test after the end with statement, and we're just going to enter a couple times. And we're going to type function, and then we're going to type in browser. Okay. And here, our open browser is going to take 2 parameters. I'm going to type a string str browser and str URL. Hit enter. Okay, so everyone's screen should look like this. And you'll notice that the code actually went and added the add end function for you. The application actually adds that for you. And then you're just going to hit Control V. Okay. I'm going to do a little coding here. All right. If anyone's not caught up, just go ahead and give a shout. All right. So here we're just going to type. We'll use So right here, we can take the browser type. So we can use what's called a, we'll use it.
The str URL, I have the whole URL. Does that make a difference?
No, you just want, this is called a parameter here. No, you don't want the whole URL. You just want these parameters exactly as it is on the screen here.
No, on the function I write it on the first line, system.util.run explorer.exe, because I copy the old code and is the other, yeah, this one I have the whole parameter. I mean the whole URL. Also, I have to define it up there. Okay.
Yeah, no, you don't want.
This is monitor for 1 minute, for a few seconds will be good. I'll catch up.
Okay. All right, so we're here, back here. Okay. So what we can do is we can create an if statement. So we can say if str browser equals IE, then let's create another. We have to create another variable, dim. Okay, create another variable called dim. Dim. This creates a new object, a new variable. I'm going to call it string app. I'm going to copy this line Firefox here. I mean, IE. So if then str app equals this, right? Now we're going to replace on line 50 or whatever line you're on with the string where it says systemutil.run. We're going to replace that with str app. Okay. So what this function is going to do is when we click open browser, we're going to pass in the browser type, and we're going to pass it the URL, and this will tell it what application to start. So if we had other browsers on our machine, we could actually give it other options. So again, we're going to create an if statement. We're going to create an else if. So we can do else if string browser equals Chrome, then str app equals chrome.exe. Okay. And then if we wanted to use Firefox, that could be another option. Else if string browser equals ff Firefox, then str app equals firefox.exe. Okay. Now let's go through the way this function works.
I have a question.
Sure.
For line 47, 50, and 53, is that something for the string part? Did you name it, or is that how they're known?
You're talking about where it says iexplore.exe, chrome.exe, firefox.exe?
No, the ones above them, where you have IE, Chrome, and FF.
So I'm just giving that values, what parameters like I would pass it, if I wanted to start. So this is like self-defined. Like if I okay, so for instance, if I'm passing the parameter IE, that means I want to pass that means I want to pass it. That means I want to start the iExplore.exe, which is Internet Explorer, correct? So I could also, I can make this function more versatile, right? So I could also say or str browser equals Internet Explorer.
Okay, but this is like for yourself or your preference, not something like it has to be certainly that.
Yeah. So, no. So this is
Okay.
this is like personal preference. So like I could do different combinations, right?
Okay.
Of what's in there. So I could say str browser equals say I might want to use mixed case. So this will make it more flexible for other people that may want to use your function, right? So our purpose in creating these functions is that we see that we always need to open up a browser page, right, for these applications, right? So we're going to have a function that can actually go and open up multiple types of browsers on our workstation, and then say I've created this function already, right? Do you think you should need to go, if we're working on the same team, do you think you would want to go and create the same function again? No, right? It's inefficient, right? So I want to make this function as flexible as possible for other team members to use. So we have what's called a common function library where we work, where we add functions that make our life easier. So right, again, coding is about reuse, and we don't want to reinvent the wheel every single time that we're creating something new, right? We don't want to start from this. If someone's already done something, why should we waste time on doing something that's already been done? So also making that point, Google is your friend. So like we'll call it, like if someone has an issue, we'll say go ask Uncle Google. You know, Google is your friend. So like when you're going and you have an idea in your head, there's a very high possibility that someone's already done that, right? So if I want to go and generate a file, or create some XML or pass XML, or connect to a database, the likelihood that someone has already done that is pretty high. So you just need to Google it, and a lot of times you'll see the code there that's already done. You can take that common code and actually add it to a library, a function, so other team members don't have to go and look up the same thing. It's already there, you know? So you have these function libraries that can already do that, right? Okay, so back to our function that we've written. So we've gone and we've created a function to open our browser. So our function is called open browser. It takes two parameters. It takes the browser type and the URL.
Hi, Greg. I have a question. I don't have the line that link function and add function. Is it make difference?
Oh yeah, we just made this function. Were you following along?
Yeah, I have everything, but I don't have the line that link function up and end function. The line. There is a line. I see line. I don't have this line.
Can you reference on my screen? Can you reference the line number?
The line number 43.
43. You don't have this line. You don't have this function.
Yeah, this line. No, this line. I don't have this line. Yes, I have everything else, but there is a line connecting function.
Oh, I see. Oh, you don't have this physical line going right here.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure why that would be. I think it's just Shamsu. Do you know why that shows up? If you're online, it's not necessary. It's just like a part of the IDE. Like if you don't have this physical line going from 43 to 59, it's not a big deal. It's just to expand the code and show the code. So it has no different. It makes no difference in the functionality of your actual application.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Greg?
Yes.
A brief quick question.
Mm-hmm.
What's the maximum number of parameters in a single function?
What's the maximum number? I don't know if there's a maximum. Like I could actually add.
You can have more than two parameters.
Oh
Single
yeah,
function.
yeah. You can have a lot. I mean, multiple parameters. Like if I could actually make this function even more. I can make this function even more versatile if I could do function like str maximize, or I can make it bool maximize. So I could say if I could add an if statement here. I'm not sure of the exact code, but I could say if bool maximize, then there's actually for this run function that there's actually some extra parameters that it takes. The mode, so I could put mode. The mode is a number value, which tells it like if it's like full screen, if you want it full screen, or just open up the same size it was before the screen. So I could say, I'm not sure what the value is for it, but if I wanted to do, I could say if it is, for instance, if well, we need another value here. Hold on. We need to do.
Have you ever done that in your career?
What's that?
Have you ever done that more than 2 parameters in a single function?
Yeah, you can have. I said you can have like you could maybe have 100. Depends on how big your function. Yeah, you can have as many parameters as you want. But let me actually I'm going to take this out. But let's do this. Yeah, so you can have multiple parameters. I'm just going to use 2 for the sake of this demo. Again, the single quote is to comment out. All right, so again, our function only has 2 parameters. I'm going to comment this out for now, but we could have multiple. So like if I wanted to do the screen size, I could say screen equals 1, whatever the maximum size is, else there's a default value for it. We're actually not using this code right now, so I'm just going to comment it out. I'm just giving an example. Okay. I'm going to comment this out. All right. So now we've created our function. If we go back, everyone should have a function open browser. We're taking 2 parameters. We're taking a string, which is the browser type, and we're taking a string. When we're taking a string, which is the URL for the site. Okay. So now let's go and go up to the top of our screen here, and we're going to comment out where it says systemutil.run.
Hey, Greg, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Greg.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean.
So over here, so you declared dim's str string app, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but where did you declare string browser?
String browser?
Yeah.
It was in the. You're talking about the function itself? Yeah. String browser. It doesn't need to. So parameters don't need to be declared. So these are when you create the function itself. Mm-hmm. You don't dim these parameters. That's a good question. This is when you create the function. This is actually dimming them here.
Oh.
So this is actually creating them. So you don't redim them here. It'll actually cause an error if we were to redim them here. So if I were to say, it would say it's been redefined. So if I were to do dim str browser here, mm-hmm. this would throw an error when the function runs. It would say this has been redefined.
But you declare str URL though, all the way to the top.
Okay, so that's another thing. So functions are separate from the rest of the code, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
So when we look at this function here, everything is self-contained within this function here.
Got you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
So does everyone get that? So I can actually, anything that I've declared up here, like I can create a same variable down here. Like I can have the variable I or something. I can have dim I inside my function. So everything is self-contained within the function. And I could also have in my regular test up here, I could have dim I. Okay. So that's not going to cause an issue. So you can have I could actually have a separate function, which we call I can do function my function that takes no parameters, and I could have dim I, dim string browser, dim string URL. These could be different variables inside of my function. It's not going to affect the other function. All of these functions, all of these functions here are self-contained. Again, okay. So let's go back up and let's go. And what we're going to do is our function, in order to call our function, we can just highlight this. And now we're gonna comment out where it says systemutil.run iexplore.exe, and we're just going to put open browser. Now, instead of str browser here, we're gonna put the browser type that we want to open, right? So we can put IE. All right, I think I only have IE on this system. I'm not sure if I put Chrome on here. Okay. And it's going to open up this URL here, right? So let's put another line. We can put, since string URL is a variable, we can actually use another, we can reset that variable afterwards and put str URL equals www.google.com, right? And then here we can put open browser. And here we can type Internet Explorer. Okay. We're gonna put a breakpoint on line 24 because we don't need to go past. We're just playing with this code right here. Okay. So go ahead and close any browsers you may have open. Everyone's code should look like this here. Oh, okay. And this is another thing. This is actually going to throw an error right here. When we're calling functions, if it doesn't return a value, you have to put the word call in front of it. So I had to put call here, call open browser. Conversely, I can call this function, but it doesn't take parentheses. So I can do open browser URL, and it'll open like that. So there's two different ways to call a function that we've created. So if it's not returning a value, you have to do an actual call open browser, IE string URL. The second example is we're going to open an Explorer, and we're resetting that URL to Google, and we're going to open up a Google browser. So also put a breakpoint on string URL where it resets it to Google. Then we're just going to click play, and this should open up Internet Explorer to our mortgage calculator application. Browser. Okay. Okay, so we saw that error, correct? So I think I forgot who asked the question. We asked about redefining the variables, so I actually put that in there on purpose to actually show that since that the name has been redefined. So like I mentioned before, Amit had asked this question about dimming the object. So I put down here string browser is actually this when you put it as one of the parameters that actually defines right there defines the variable. So we don't need to redefine it here. So we can go ahead and comment that out, or we can actually delete it. Right. Yes. All right, so let's go ahead and run it again. Here we see that it opens the mortgage calculator. Okay. Now what's going to happen is it gets to line 19 on our screen, and the string URL variable has been redefined. At first, you can reassign variables, new values to your variables. Okay, so we first assigned it as mortgage calculator. Now we're reassigning that variable to Google, correct? Okay, so now we're going to click play again after it hits our breakpoint, and it's going to open the Google browser. Should have opened the Google browser. Let's see. Okay, it opened this browser here, which is it says I have extra W in there. That's why. I have the extra W. Save that. One more time. So we're going to click play, run. It's going to open up the mortgage calculator first. We get to the line, we're going to reassign back to the URL. We're going to assign it Google. Then we're going to click play again, and it's going to open up a Google browser. Okay. So now we have a versatile function that we can actually reuse now. Okay. Go ahead and click. You can go ahead and close the browsers and go ahead and click stop. So that's just an example of what we've created. Now we've created a function that we can actually reuse over and over again. Okay. Let's go back down to our function. We've actually added an if statement here. So the format for the if statement is, our if statement is if this anything within the parentheses, an if statement. So if this is true, so if the browser equals IE, if the browser, someone's
Sorry to interrupt you. I lost you in somewhere as you were typing the codes. I was wondering, would you be able to help me copy that and put it in the comment of what you were typing?
I'll do that now.
Hard for you? Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, everyone, I just pasted the code into the message chat for anyone who didn't catch that. And then the way we called our function, the way you're going to call it is by using this code here. So you're going to put that at the top. Okay. All right, is everyone caught up here? All right. Okay. So we've got our function that we've created now. What's that? What's that?
First one, can you paste it again? I opened the other one.
Okay, you need me to paste the code again?
The function, yes, please. Open browser.
Gotcha.
Oh, you know.
All right, the code is pasted for anyone that didn't get it.
Yeah.
All right, and then the call to the function is this code here.
Greg,
Yeah.
I'm getting an error saying that cannot use parentheses when calling a sub.
Okay, right. So 14. So you have to put call. You have to put call in front of it when you have parentheses. So like conversely, you have to call it like this. See line 21 on my screen where it says open browser space. There's no parentheses, but these are the parameters that we're calling. So we're calling the open browser function with the Internet Explorer parameter and string URL, which is set to mortgage calculator here. Or no, I'm sorry, it's set to Google right here.
Okay.
Right, see, there's no parentheses when I call that. Otherwise, conversely, if you do want to use parentheses when you call, you just have to put the word call in front of it. So call keyword.
Got you. Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. I mute your mics, everyone. All right. All right, so let's go and we're going to create a copy of this function now. You guys should not have this down here. I was just giving an example here. We're going to take our same exact function that we've created already. Right. Just create a copy of it. We're going to copy the entire thing. And just paste it at the bottom. Now our functions can't have the same name in VB script. In other languages, programming languages, you could like if you guys are taking the Java later on, you can have functions with the same names, but they have to take different parameters or different types of parameters. That's called overloading function. So in Java, C++, you can actually create the same function with the same exact name, or they're called methods with the same exact name. In VB script, you can't. It'll cause a conflict. So again, here I have the open browser. Here, let's just add a 2 instead. Open browser 2. So your function here is going to be open browser 2, string browser, string URL. It's going to take the same exact parameters. Let's go ahead and delete this entire if statement. So let's delete all of this. We're going to keep the bottom portion though. Actually, we can comment it, make it easier. All right, everyone should have basically no code or should be commented out to make it easier. All right, this is another coding convention here, okay, that I'm going to teach you now. So we've gone through an if statement again. Back to the if statement just real quick. So if it's saying if it goes through each line of code and we're saying if this first line is true, so if the string browser equals IE, or, so if you guys aren't sure of logic, or means like if this is true, or this is true, or this is true. So if the browser's IE or it's Internet Explorer all uppercase or Internet Explorer mixed case, then if either one of those is true, if one is true, 2 is false, or 3 is false, this entire statement is still going to be true. Logic's a little bit difficult to teach if you guys, I mean, it's not too difficult to understand. Just remember, or means if any one, if you have an or inside of here, that means if any one of these is true, then that entire statement is true. Then this part of the code will execute, right? Where it says string app iExplorer equals exe. If it is and, if we use the and here instead, that would mean that all of these have to be true. So this would have to be true, and this would have to be true, and this would have to be true in order for this code to execute. Otherwise, it would go to the second line of code, right? So if string browser equals Chrome, then execute that. If that's true, then we're gonna Chrome is gonna be our application. Otherwise, our browser is gonna be Firefox. And then you should also have, you can add in a default, you can have the else. So if, else if, you can do as many else ifs as you want. And then you have the last else typically. All right. So back to our code. So that's how if statements work. So you have ands, ors, you can have nots, which is a negative of something. So something that's not true is false. Something that's not false is true. So not actually negates, does the opposite. All right, another coding convention, which is a little bit cleaner. Instead of, you typically don't want to nest, you typically don't want to nest if statements inside of each other. It's actually cumbersome on the browser and it's kind of inefficient. So we have what's called a select case statement, okay? So it's similar convention to an if else statement. So we're going to type select case, so it automatically types it in. So you type select case, everyone should have this here. All right. So our case here is going to be string browser again. Okay. So everyone should have that on the screen. I'm just going to hit enter. Now, this is going to be very similar to our previous statement. So this is saying if our string browser, now we're going to do case space, and we're going to say IE, comma, Internet Explorer, comma, Internet Explorer. And then here we're going to do string app equals iExplorer.exe. Okay. Also, we're going to do case Chrome, comma, Chrome, str app equals Chrome.exe. Case ff, comma, Firefox, comma, Firefox, str app equals Firefox.exe. And here you can have what's called a case else, which is the default string app. Our default browser we'll use as iExplorer.exe. Okay. Now let's compare this code with the if statement. It's a lot cleaner. We've accomplished the exact same bit of code as this if statement, as these long if statements, but in a lot less code. So let's go through. What's happening here is we're saying the case, this coding convention is taking this string case, which is the browser, it's comparing that browser value when we're calling this function, it's calling this browser and it's putting it here and saying if the browser equals Internet Explorer, if it equals IE or Internet Explorer or lowercase Internet Explorer or mixed case Internet Explorer, then the browser we're going to open up is iexplorer.exe. If it's Chrome, then we're going to do chrome.exe. So if this value matches any of these values here, if the browser type, then this is what we're going to assign. Okay. So if we go, and by default, if none of them match, we're going to open up Internet Explorer.exe. Okay. So let's go ahead and click save here. Now let's go back up to our functions that we've created. Back up to our call of the function. So we're going to go back up to the top of our script now. And we have the call open browser IE string URL. Okay. So we're going to copy that entire line. Control copy. We'll comment out the first one, and we're going to paste it again. And we're just going to put a 2 here this time. And let's change it up a little bit. We'll use the mixed case. Internet Explorer. Oops. Okay. Conversely, we can go back down here to the next call. We're going to copy this line again. We're going to comment out the open browser, copy it, and here we're going to we'll just put IE, or we can use it the same. We're going to just change it to a 2, open browser 2. So we're calling our second function that we've written here, open browser 2. Go ahead and click save. So again, everyone's screen, I'm going to go ahead and paste the code that I wrote for the second function into the message box so everyone can stay caught up here. And I'll actually leave the code that I commented out from the first function so you guys can compare that and see how it works with the original and see how it's much cleaner to use the select case statement because we don't want to combine too many if statements. Readability is a big factor when you're coding. So let me go ahead and copy that. I'm going to copy this code into the message box for anyone who isn't caught up. All right, everyone should be caught up now. All right, if anyone's not caught up, just go ahead and shout out. I'll give a minute. And if you're not caught up, just don't be afraid to speak up. We should interact, everyone. If you have any questions, again, feel free to ask questions. If you don't understand something, feel free to ask a question anytime. That's what we're here for. All right, I'm going to go ahead and run this code now.
Under between these two break lines, the print from the call browser to print. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you paste this on code?
Can I what?
Yeah. Can you paste this on the chat?
This print. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. again, to recap what the print statements do, the print statements will go ahead and output to the output window, which is not visible on my screen. So we're going to go to View, and we're going to click on the output. If you don't see that tab, and here we can see our output from our previous runs. It tells us what URL we're opening, what operating system I'm running on. To clear that, we can go ahead and click Clear All Lines. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click Run again. Now this time it's going to run our second function. So it's going to accomplish the same exact thing. Nothing should look different. We're going to run it. Boom, opened up our mortgage calculator. It stopped here at Google, at the Google line. We're reassigning again that string URL to the Google URL. We're going to click play again, and it should open up our Google URL, which is here. Okay, so that's our first function we've written. So now we've gone through 2 coding conventions now. We'll go ahead and close this. We'll close our browsers, go ahead and click stop. As you see in the print log, we've opened up our URL. Our function ran the same as before. We're going to go back to our actions. Test results are the same. We only opened our browser and so forth. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a quick 10-minute break, and then we'll come back in 10 minutes. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. All right, so we'll go ahead and take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 11:13 or so, Eastern time. All right, everybody. Everyone should be back from the break. Are there any questions before we move forward? Hope I'm not moving too fast. Is everyone understanding? If there's something that you don't understand that anyone doesn't understand, please feel free to ask. Again, we're here to help you. This is a lot to grasp. It can be a lot to grasp, you know. Just to start off with, you know, learning to code is not like the easiest thing for everyone. So, but this is what it takes, you know, to be a test automation engineer. You know, we have to know how to code, and VB script is actually one of the easiest languages to understand. It's much easier to do than Java or like C++ or Ruby, and those are all object-oriented programming languages. VB script is it's not a compiled language, so it's a scripted language. So as it gets to the code, it's executed. So it's easier to understand. Okay, so again, like if I'm moving too fast for anyone, please just give a shout. I've copied and pasted all of the code. That we've gone over so far. Again, if you have any comments or anything, please just give a shout. Okay, so back to our functions that we've created. Again, let's overview. We've created 2 functions that basically do the same exact thing. Computer's acting up. One second. Bear with me for a second. My computer's spinning. Well, I'll just talk while the computer's doing its thing. Again, we've gone over 2 different functions that actually do the same exact thing. So we've created function 1, which is open browser. We use an if statement there to accomplish opening a browser that we specify as a parameter in the call to that function. So open browser on line 14 here. Hey, Shamsu, can you take away the sharing of my screen real quick? It's not, something's acting up.
Hey, Greg, if you click on the monitor on the top next to the microphone, it will disable sharing.
No, I entered a chat I put a chat message in to someone, and then ever since then it's been acting up.
Oh, okay.
It's just hanging. All right, so I'll just talk for a second. So while we did the if statement, so that's logic again. So we have anything that's within the if statement. If once it gets to that first if statement, the code checks to see if that value is true. If it's true, it executes that bit of code. If it's false, it goes to the next line, which could be an if else, or it could just end the statement there. You could have an end if you don't need to do any more further processing. So the same with the select case statement. So select case statement will compare the first value that it encounters, and then it will go, and if it matches, then it'll execute that line of code. If not, then we'll go to the next one, and then you have the default, which is the case else statement. And I apologize. Hey, Shamsu.
Yes.
Yeah, my computer is just after entering that private chat, it's just hanging. And this is the second time it's done that. I don't know what. Can you take over for a second?
Sure.
I mean, okay. What I was gonna do was I was gonna take. Were you following along? I mean, do you have the code that I've done or no?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and. Yeah, I'll let. Can you take over from? I gotta restart the meeting or something on my end.
Okay. Sure.
All right.
All right. So while Greg is restarting his machine, what I can do is If anyone actually do not understand anything that's been covered by Greg, I can take a look at it and provide my feedback. If anyone has any question at this moment, or not, caught up to the speed, let me know. So my screen is coming up. Just gonna create a new test. Function.
Hey, Shamsu, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, let me see if mine, I think mine got, let me see, let me share mine, let me see, I can get back.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
All right, can you see mine now? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I think it's something with the private chat when someone sends a message, I think it locks the screen. Okay, so we're back here, I'm sorry, and I apologize to everyone for that slight hiccup. So again, we've created our two functions. We have Open Browser and Open Browser 2, which actually accomplish the same exact thing. And so we're calling those functions. Again, there's two ways to call a function. We can call by you can put the call statement before it with the parentheses or without. All right, so we can call with or without the parentheses. So on line 23, we're calling without the parentheses, and then we can just use our function name. On line 15, we're calling it with parentheses, the same exact function, and we're just calling with we have to put the call statement before that if we want to use parentheses. Okay. In terms of coding other languages, you always have to use parentheses. So sometimes when you use this call statement, it actually looks more, it's a little bit cleaner. But to see values in parentheses, then that way it's explicitly seen that this is a function that you're actually calling here. So let's go ahead and do this. Everyone click on File, and we're going to do New, and we're going to do New Function Library. All right, we're going to save it in the same default location that all of our other tests and everything are stored in. And we're going to call this function, we're going to call it all uppercase. We're going to call it cyber boolean underscore functions dot VBS. Okay, so everyone should have that. So we went to File, New Function Library, and we call it cyber boolean underscore functions dot VBS. And we're just going to click Create. It should appear next to our action one that we've already created. So it should just open up another tab, separate tab. Okay, should be empty. I'm just going to add we can copy and paste our same header from our previous test. All right, so this is our function library that we're creating now. Okay, so here we're just going to type, again, we're just going to type option explicit at the top. So everyone should have this, a blank function library. Go ahead and save that. Okay, again. So basically a function library is basically, this is going to be a collection of all of our functions that we're going to create. So we're going to go ahead and let's just start our function library now. This will be used, I guess we can use it throughout training as we go ahead and start to create our framework. We'll go ahead and add to this function library. So this will be a list of like common functions that we can use, so we don't have to keep writing the same code again over and over, right? So we don't want to, again, reinvent the wheel. And so again, let's go back to our action one now. We're going to copy our function from action one, and we're just going to put it inside of our cyber Boolean function. So let's go back down to our function library, to our code, and we'll start with the open browser function here. And we're going to take all of the code, and we're just going to hit Control X. Okay. Then we're going to go back to our function library. We're just going to Control V. And we're going to save it. Okay. So everyone should have both of our functions, our open browser function and our open browser 2 function, are now contained in our function library, our cyber Boolean functions library. Okay. We'll go back to our action one. We've actually changed this test. If we look at it now, it's much cleaner. We'll go ahead and delete any extra lines not necessary. Go ahead and click save on your script, test script. Okay. I'll wait for everyone to catch up. So what we've done is we've taken our 2 function libraries, our 2 functions that we've written, which is our open browser and our open browser 2. We've cut those out of our script because these are reusable functions that we can use throughout. If we had a team of testers, a team of test engineers, anyone could use that function, correct? So we could share that, anyone could use that function throughout our team. So we'll go back to our Boolean functions now. And look here, we have our comments at the top. We have option explicit, which we've added. And we have our functions we have our 2 functions that accomplish the same exact thing. We have open browser, which does it by the if statement, and we have open browser 2. Okay. Both functions accomplish the same exact thing. And here, let's go ahead and add a print statement. Or we can actually cut the one out of our test script. So let's go back and print statement where it says opening URL, line 17. We're just going to cut that out. Control X. And we're just going to paste it inside of our function library. This will accomplish the same exact thing. We can actually add some more text if we wanted to, make a note in browser. Okay, I'm going to paste this line into the comments. Hopefully it doesn't freeze my machine. Everyone. Okay. All All right, so now we have pasted that same line, and we're gonna paste it also in the other Open Browser 2 function. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this code so it's a little bit cleaner. All right, so everyone should have the 2 functions. All right, we're gonna save that. Okay, so now we have our cyberbooleans function. Let's go back to our action. Go ahead and click save. All right, so now that we have our function library, right, we have to actually point that library back to our tests, okay? It has to become what's called a resource. We have to add that function library as a resource for this test here, okay? So this is our test 3. Everyone, we're still on test 3 for our mortgage calculator. We're gonna go and we're gonna go ahead and click File, Settings. Okay, this will open the settings. Again, we've gone through the settings before. Settings is contain the various settings for each individual test. So this step here, we have to do for our initial test that we're creating now. So we're going to go ahead and click the Resources button, right? And here it'll say libraries. Resources are our libraries that we're using. So enter and prioritize the function libraries you want to associate with your test, right? So now we're going to go ahead and click this green plus button. And that's going to enable us to add the function library that we just created and associate it with this test. So we can go ahead and click these 3 dots here, and that's the browse function. And we're just going to choose our cyberboolean functions.bbs file, and we're going to click open. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that one more time. So so everyone's caught up, we're going to go to File, Settings, Resources on the left screen. We're going to click the green plus button. We're going to click the button with the 3 dots on it to browse to our location. We're going to select the cyberboolean functions, and we're going to click open. It says, do you want to add you might get this, you're going to click no. Okay, just click no. Then you're going to see the entire path to our function library there. Okay, now if you have a common library that you're always using, which will be our cyberboolean functions, we can go ahead and click set as default here. Okay, what this does is every time we create a brand new test, it's automatically put our library in as by default. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead.
Syntax.
What's that?
Got an error. It says syntax error.
You might have a error in your library, function library. I'll go ahead and post. I'm going to go ahead and copy all the code from the function library into so you can copy and overwrite yours. All right, so let me do this one more time. I'm going to hit cancel here. Again, we went to File, Settings, Resources. We're going to click the green button, the green plus button. We're going to click the 3 dots to actually browse to our test, and we're going to click cyberboolean functions.bbs, select that, and we're going to click open. We're going to click no if this, I'm going to click do not show this message again, and I'm going to click no. Okay. We've now associated our function library with our test. We're going to click set as default, and we're going to click OK. Now this makes a change to the test, so we're going to have to click save on our test. All right. I'm going to go ahead and copy this function library for anyone who might have a syntax error. I'm going to copy the entire thing. You can change your name at the top. I'm going to paste this into the chat window. So if you are having issues with your function library, you can go ahead and copy and paste this code. All right. So now we have our separate function library, and we have our action, which is our test, our action 1, which is our test 3. Okay, so we've actually cleaned up our code. We see our code is much less now, right? So we actually have our function library, which is totally separate, which will actually go in and open our browser. So let's go ahead and make sure this works correctly. So we'll go back to our action 1. We'll put a breakpoint on str URL where it says Google. And we're just going to click play again and make sure our function library is called correctly. And boom, it opens up our browser as expected. Okay, so everyone should see your first browser open. We can go ahead and click play again. It should open the second browser, which is Google. All right, so now to recap what we've done, you can go ahead and click stop on your test if you're at that point. What we've done now is we've gone and we've created a function library, which is reusable. So again, code reuse, and we've associated that with our test automation script. So our test 3 function library, we've actually associated it there. Okay, so we can go ahead and close that. Again, if we look at our output window, our function that we created actually, we said opening URL.
Greg?
Yes.
Can you please go on action 1 and copy the whole thing and put it on the chat box, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So another shortcut key, everyone, when you want to select everything on your screen. So being able to code quickly, we want to just hit Control A, your control key A, and then that selects all the code on your screen. So these are your shortcut keys. Control A is Control All, which selects all. Control C is copy. Control V is to paste. Control Z is to undo something. So if I type something and I wanted to undo it, I hit Control Z. So these are shortcut keys which will help you when you're trying to code quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and I hit Control A to highlight everything. Now I hit Control C to copy everything. And now I'm just going to paste into the chat window the code for the entire test. All right. All right, so now we're back into our window here. All right. Let's go ahead now and create a new test. Okay. So we're gonna do file, we're gonna do add new test. So we can go back and forth. Add new test, we're gonna add a GUI test. We're just gonna call it test, call it test underscore looping. We're gonna click add. When you look at your Solution Explorer now, you're going to see multiple tests listed. So whenever you want to open multiple tests, you're going to use the file add to add a new test or an existing test. That's the way you open up multiple tests. If I were just to do file open a test, it's going to close all your existing tests that you have open, and it won't let you open up multiple tests at one time. So if you want to open up multiple tests at the same time, you need to click on file add. and that will give you the ability to open up multiple tests at one time. Okay, so when we're looking at our Solution Explorer here, I can see now I have 2 tests open, which is test looping and test 3. When I go and let me scroll this up. All right. So when we're looking at the test now, we can see that this is the new test we created, the test looping. When we click on the expand the function libraries, we see that our cyberboolean function is there by default now, because if we go back to the test settings, we set that as a default test. So test settings, resources, we now have our cyberboolean test set as a default. So it's always going to add that function library in every time we create a brand new test, right? So this is our action 1 that we're on. Let's go ahead and rename that to, so we can distinguish, we'll go ahead and rename that. We'll just call it looping. Let's go ahead and click yes. Okay, so everyone should see test looping with the action. The action is called looping, and our function library underneath it is called cyberboolean functions, which is already there. And we're going to go ahead and click save. Go ahead and put a comment at the top if you want. Okay, go ahead and type option explicit. And save it. All right, everyone should be here. Test name, you should have option explicit on your screen with the name. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go through looping conventions. So looping, in coding practices, there's a lot of things that we want to repeat more than one time. Say we want to go through iterate through a table, or we want to wait for something to happen. We want to wait a while. So there's different looping conventions. If you guys went through the VB script, resources that Shamsu outlined, they're on the W3 schools. So that's a good resource for learning VB script. Now I'm just going to go through some coding conventions here, and we'll just work through some codes, how to do looping statements. The first one, and the one that we use the most, I would say, is the for loop. So let's go through the coding conventions for a for loop. So again, since we use the option explicit statement, we want to actually, we have to initialize all of our variables. So I want everyone to just type dim I, another line, dim j. Then we're going to do dim I counter. I'm going to do dim string text. And we'll do dim string URL. All right. Everyone should be here. actually, I'm going to paste this code into the chat window. So everyone's caught up. All right, again, these are variables. So I typically, when you're going to precede them with str, integers and so forth. I is one that you'll see often when you're coding in terms of like coding like Java, or when you're using looping statements or anything like that. I is just it's just an integer. So we have a counter here, I counter, I and j. These are like assumed to be integers here. All right, so our first thing that we're going to do, let's go down to the data. And let's type, double click on the A column, and let's type the word execute. And click enter. And then here on row 1, we're just going to put yes, or put a Y. Row 2, we'll put a Y. Row 3, we'll put N. Row 4, we'll put N. Row 5, we'll put Y. Okay. So again, we went down to the data section of the test for the looping test. We went to execute. Row 1, we put Y. Row 2, we put Y. Row 3, we put N. Row 4, we put N. And row 5, we put Y. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click save there. All right. So now we have this looping statement here that we have. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to type yes. Go ahead and if anyone doesn't see the data tab on their screen, you're going to go and you're going to click view data. Okay, and that'll pull up your data sheet. Okay, everyone should. If anyone is not caught up, let me know. All right, so we're back here on the test. So now here we're going to use a for loop. We're going to say for, and you'll see that here it automatically put in an iterator and then a step. So by default, the step is not needed, and the iterator, the word iterator is actually a parameter. Is actually a variable. So iterator is like the word I up top. So we're just going to replace iterator with I. For I equals 1 to 1, step 1. So this is where it says 2, that's the number of steps that we're going to step. And then the step value 1 here, this 1 here that I've highlighted, is that's how big of a step we're going to take. So I might want to take 10 steps total. So for I equals 1 to 10, oops, I was on the wrong one. For I equals 1 to 10, for I equals 1 to 10, step 1. Okay, so we actually don't, the default step is actually 1 step. So we actually don't need this. So if you see this, we're going to say, we're going to loop a total of 10 times. What happens is the step 1, when the code runs, it's going to get here and it's going to increment I to be equal to. So we're going to run, it's going to run whatever code we have in here. So I'll add a comment. Run this code I number of times. When it gets down here, it's going to add 1 to I. Okay, so basically, you guys don't need this. I'm just typing this out. Basically, I equals I plus 1. Okay, so we're going to add 1 to I. Every time it hits this next statement, we're going to add 1 to that I there. Okay, so here, let's go ahead and we can go ahead and put, let's put a print statement, and we're just going to put I equals, we'll put I equals, and then put I. Okay, so this is just text here. We're saying well, I equals, and then the ampersand concatenates the text, and we're going to click next, our next statement. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a breakpoint there. I'm going to save this. I'm going to copy this code for anyone that needs it. All right, the code is up in your chat window if you did not get it, if you didn't code it. All right, so now we're going to go to our output window at the bottom of the screen. Let's go ahead and clear that out. Go ahead and click the clear all lines, this little X button down there. If anyone doesn't see the output window, you just click on view output, and that'll show your output window. All right, now we're just going to run this code. Okay, actually, take the breakpoint off. I'll put it on the next statement. Okay, so we're just going to click play. And we're going to click run. Now we see it in our print log, we have I equals 1. Okay, so our first line on line 13 is setting I, our variable I, and we're going to set it equal to 1. Okay, now we're going to click play again. Now I equals 2. Now we're on our next statement. It added 1 to our I statement. Now we're going to click play again. We can continuously click play, and we're going to see that I is going to go, and it's now 8, now 9, and now it's 10. Okay, so now I is equal to 10. So now that we've gotten to that, it's going to go, and since I equals 10, it's not going to execute anymore. Oh, okay. The reason, okay, it should have stopped right there. We have our test set to run on all rows. So I've added 5 rows to our test. So it's going to execute 5 times. Again, this is a looping. Let's go ahead and click stop. What happened? It repeated, the test repeated because in the data sheet, I've actually added 5 rows here. So this actually would have repeated 5 times. The way you control the data sheet, again, if we only want to execute on 1 row, we can do that. So we can just go to File, and we can go to Settings, and we can click on Run, the Run tab, and we're just gonna click Run 1 iteration only, and click OK. Again, that's File, Settings, Run 1 iteration only, and click OK. And we'll go back to our output. We'll clear our output. I'm going to add a line here. Print. Okay. Save this. All right, again. Okay, so now we're going to code. All right, now we're going to run our code again. So we're going to run this. I equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then our 10th iteration, we have I equals 10, and then it will not get to 11. We've gone, and we've now finished the for loop. Okay, so that's looping. That's a for loop. Okay, so again, I'm gonna copy and paste that code into the chat window. All right, so okay, so everyone should have a copy of that code now. All right, does everyone explain? Does everyone understand the for loop? Okay, if there's anyone that does not understand the for loop, let me know. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to a while loop. Okay, so a while loop is almost the same thing. It's like a similar convention, but a while loop is while something is true. So let's go ahead and type it out. While this is true, whatever the code inside of this loop will execute while this statement is true. So this code will execute while the statement above is true. Okay. So while true. Okay. So here, this is kind of like a Control Z. This is kind of like an if statement here. Okay. So this is similar. Yeah, this is similar to an if statement. I mean, yeah. So whatever is true here will execute here. Okay. So let's replace this true, and we're going to put I counter is less than 10. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and print here. We're going to do print count. Okay. So the thing about while statements is they can be tricky. Is if you code it wrong, your test can be stuck in an infinite loop, right? So if this statement never falls out, like say if I counter, if we forget to set I counter to a value, if I forget to increment I counter in some way, we can get stuck in this loop forever, right? So then we'll have to stop our tests manually, and it can actually cause like memory leaks or so forth. So we don't want to get caught in what's called an infinite loop, right? So we want our test to be able to escape. So here we're going to say I counter equals I counter plus 1. Okay. And here we're going to initialize I counter. We're going to say I counter equals. We're going to say I counter equals 1. Okay. So let's loop through this now. So we're initializing our I counter variable. So up top we have dimmed our I counter. So we've defined our I counter variable here. On line 21, we've actually gone through and we have actually assigned it a value of 1. Now we're actually going to go and run our code, and while it gets in the loop, if I is less than 10, correct? I counter is less than 10. So this code in here will execute. I counter, when it executes, it's going to add a 1 to the I counter. So we're starting at 1. The next iteration will be 2. The iteration after that will be 3, 4, and 5. And then finally, it will jump out of the while loop. So we can go ahead and print finished while loop. All right. So let's go ahead and execute this code. I think I took all the breakpoints out. Yeah, so there should be no breakpoints. I'm going to go ahead and copy this code and put it into the chat window. All right, we're going to go ahead and run it now. We're going to see both the for loop and the while loop run, and we'll see how fast it is actually when we don't put any breakpoints in. Go ahead and click run. Done. It's already finished. All right, it's pretty fast, right? Faster than anyone could type. So that's the power of coding. All right, so now we have our while loop. That's our counter, and we saw that it fell out once it reached 10. Okay. Well, less than 10. Okay, so 9 is less than 10. So once it got, the reason it didn't print 10 was 10 less than 10. No, 10 is equal to 10, right? So it didn't actually execute that last loop. This is something we have to look out for when we're actually coding, right? So if I wanted to change that, I could put less than or equal to, I need to put less than or equal to 10, right? So if I wanted to make sure that 10th iteration path ran all the way, I would go ahead and click play here. And now we'll see that that last iteration will run. And we go down to our statement, and we have that the second one actually ran. I mean, the second bit of code actually ran. All right, I'm going to go ahead and copy all this code. I'm going to copy the entire script into the chat window so everyone can follow along. All right. Now, back to the while loop. So I'm going to make here, I'm going to say I equals, okay, we'll put I equals 1. So let's actually add, inside of our while loop, we can actually put some code. So you might want to say if okay, mod is a not MOHD, MOD is a function that takes it gets the remainder. So we're going to take the mod of the counter, the I counter. So if it's divisible by 2, then it's an even number. So if there's no remainder, then it's an even number. If there is a remainder, then it's an odd number. So I'm going to copy and paste this code to the screen. So this is how we code. You can actually add a lot of code within the application, whatever you're scripting, you know, you can put if statements, while statements, everything like that. You can code, I could actually put a switch statement, a select statement inside and so forth. So I'll go ahead and save the script. And I pasted that code to the chat window if anyone didn't get it. So I'm going to go ahead and click play. We see that our counter is odd number. We have 2 as an even number, 3 as an odd number, 4 as an even number, and so forth, as we would expect. Okay. Here inside of our code, again, we can put, maybe we want to report some messages back. So we can do reporter dot report event. If it's an even number, we'll make it a pass, right? Mike, pass, even number. This. Okay. Say if we wanted the test to fail, if it was an odd number, we could put odd number. So this is the way we code our tests. Yeah. Okay, so we'll see this test fail when we run these results here. Close this. Okay, so again, we printed our test results. See, we expected, this is just an example, like if we wanted to show failures for something maybe that showed up on the screen that we didn't want. So this is an example of like using if statements and reporting those results back to the screen or back to our test results. Okay, so let's go, and we will now do a do while statement. Okay, so this is another looping convention. Okay, so this is a do while statement. So I'm going to put do while example. I'm going to add some comments in here, and I'm going to paste it. So this is a while loop example. And this is a for loop example. Okay, I'm going to copy, Control A, Control copy. I'm pasting this into the chat window for everyone. All right. Do while statement. Okay, so a do while statement is almost the same, almost the same concept as the while statement. We're going to do, except that a do while statement is always executed once. Okay, so we say do, and it's going to do what's inside of this loop while this statement is true. I shouldn't have typed it though. While I counter is less than or equal to 10. All right, so this is the syntax for a do while loop. I'll change this to do loop while. You see the conventions in different programming languages are a little bit different. So you have do while in Java, like all of these coding conventions that I'm showing you now is basic programming languages. So logic and looping are the two main things that all coding is based on. So I'm going to go, no matter what language you're doing, you have to know how to do logic statements, which are if then else and select statements. In Java and C++ and languages like that, they're called switch statements, but it's the same exact concept as the select statement, which I showed earlier. And then we have do while, for loops, and while loops. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this code here. And here we're going to say, we're going to reset iCounter, and we're going to set it to 1 here. For the, wow. All right, I'm going to recopy this to the code output. All right, everyone should have this code on their screen now. We're going to do a do while statement. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hit play. Should run our if statement. Okay. Now let's go back and look how many times it printed this iCounter do while. So if we go to the output screen, it only did it one time, right? But it did do it one time because iCounter equals was less than or equal to 10, right? So it did this code no matter what, it did it one time, but then I'm setting the iCounter value to 11. So when it gets to the while statement, saying if iCounter is less than or equal to 10, okay? So it executed this code, so it printed the iCounter do while. We set the value to 1. It printed that value, which is iCounter do while was 1. It then set the value to iCounter to 11, and then it says loop while iCounter is less than or equal to 10. Since it reached that, and that this is false, once this statement is false, since iCounter is now 11, it's going to fall out of that loop, right? Okay, so iCounter is now 11. It's going to drop out of that loop there. Any questions on this looping? Okay. Now, let's go back to our data table, and we'll go back up to our for loop. Okay. And here's our data table here. And this is something that we use all the time. So we have our test set to only run one iteration now, and we actually loop, instead of using the data table to actually loop through, we'll actually use like our for loops. Actually, but before I jump to that, yeah, let me just do a for loop within a for loop. So everyone can look at a spreadsheet here. So we're looking at the spreadsheet at the bottom. We have these are rows and columns. So our rows, when we go through that will represent the row in a table. So, and then we have row. The column will be J, will be represented by the J when we're iterating through tables. So a common question we ask in our interview process is, how do you, sorry, someone asked for a code. How do you loop through a table and find a value in a table? So say if I have a table of X number of rows and Y number of columns, how do I find, say if I wanted this value in D2, like how would I find that if I'm iterating through, okay? The way you do that is you put one for loop inside of another for loop, okay? So for I equals 1 to 10, that'll run row 1 when I get to row 1, and then I'm going to put another for loop inside of here. I'm going to say for J equals 1 to, say I only have 5 columns in my table, I can put 5, okay? Now say print J equals and J, okay? So we have one for loop within another. What this is going to do is we're going to go to row 1, and we're only going to use 5 columns. I'm not actually using this data table. I'm just giving an example of a table itself. We're iterating through a table. So we're on row 1, and it's going to look for, say, a value from column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it'll go up to there. It'll go on row 1 and print out 1 through 5. Then it will go and it'll jump to row 2. So then I equals 2, we'll jump down to row 2, and then we'll go through columns 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and so forth. So then we'll jump down to, then I will go 3, and then we'll jump up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for column for that row. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'll just run that loop, put a breakpoint here, and I'll go ahead and copy and paste all this code. Copy. Oops. All right. So I'm going to run this code here. Now, when we look back at our printout, we're going to see that I equals 1, and then it goes J equals 1 through 5, and then we're going to skip down to row 2, and then we're going to go again J 1 through 5, then I equals 3, and then again J 1 through 5. So that's how we iterate through tables, and that's very, very important. So you want to look, that's putting one loop inside of another. So it's called, self-contained loops. I'm going to go ahead and click stop. Okay. Go ahead and comment out this loop here. Again, we can accomplish, going back to our function, we can go ahead and do open browser. And we can do IE. And we're going to do HTTPS mortgage. I'm going to open 3. We'll change 2, 3. So we're just going to run this, and this will open up. This should call our function library that we've run, and we're going to just go open up our 3 browsers. Okay, so we're now calling our functions that we've created. Okay, we've just opened up 3 browsers with our for loop. Any questions from anyone? All right, is it a good time for a break? Shams, are you there? Okay. All right, if no one had, we're gonna go ahead and take a 40-minute break. That'll take us to 1 p.m. I think Shamsu will continue with the second session. I'm gonna go ahead and save this test and paste it into the chat window for everyone. And Shamsu will continue with the afternoon session. Again, if there's any questions, I will save this test also out to our UFT scripts folder for everyone to be available. The function library will also be out there, so we can use that for future reference and for our future tests as we start to build our frameworks. So again, I implore everyone to go out and learn about looping and everything. All right, take care.
All right, Greg, actually, yes, we'll continue session. Let's take a break until 1:15 and have yourself, available exactly at 1:15 so we can continue a little bit longer. Today, if it's okay with everyone, we might continue after 2:30. If there is any confusion with any materials, we'll go over and we'll discuss some high-level stuff and how to actually get all the info you need. So we'll meet at 1:15. All right. Yes. So we are actually installing a HP UFT on one of my brothers. His name is Johar, and he bought a new computer. So we're trying to see if we can actually install on his new machine.
Double click.
Yeah, double mouse click or right mouse click. And first select the first one.
Excuse me.
Select the first option, unified functional testing.
Double click.
Yes. And it gives you something pop up.
Do you want to allow? Yes.
Yes, and we don't see that because that is admin things.
Mhm.
And did you click yes?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not seeing your other screen. What is actually doing? Don't click it again if it's you already clicked because it's gonna mess up the installation.
Oh, okay.
What is doing? I don't see the other screen except the HPE Unified Functional window. Is it doing anything?
No.
When you yes, what did it do? Jar?
Yes, still sitting.
What happened after you click the pop-up saying, do you want to continue or install this?
It took me back to the same, like, window before. It says like exit on the bottom. Or
Okay.
I should, like, double click again or unified functional testing setup.
Yeah, click
Still there.
exit from there. Click exit. Click on exit. Okay. Yeah, I see it. Okay, now click OK. This is what I wanted to see actually. Yeah. That's why sometimes this hides behind. Okay, move that window a little bit on the left or right so we can see what's behind. Okay, so it's actually installing some prerequisites like, in order to install HP tool, you need to have some tools in your machine. So it's checking whether you have everything you need. If not, it's gonna say, okay, you need to have this patch or something.
Mm-hmm.
And
Script debugging.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There you go.
Okay, can you open that computer with the DVD? Yeah. All right, next. And select accept the license agreement. And next. Click on next. Okay, now here is the part we need to configure. Can you scroll it down? We have the ActiveX already, selected the drop down, and then we have web add-ins already selected. As you can see, there is no cross. And if you scroll it down, we want to select Java, the Java.
Dad, it was my baby. What is this?
Yeah, مشكلة, right?
Yes, first one, yes.
Mhm.
See.
So after highlighted, like, you see.
Yeah, the first item, you will be selecting the first item. You will be installed on local. Select the local. Okay.
This one?
Yes. And then scroll it down. And you see something Qt add-ins. Select the same thing. Same.
This one?
Yes. Select on the drop down. Yes. And yeah. And click on next. And just don't leave it as default. We are just gonna configure the Explorer. Install. Click on install.
How about we check in box?
No, we're not checking at this moment. We can come back to it later. But at this, for this, you don't need that. These are like a remote execution. If you want to run it from a virtual machine from one machine to another, or run it ALM like a quality center or other external source.
Okay.
Click on install. And that should begin your installation. After this, once the installation is complete, it's gonna say readme file. You can uncheck it or leave it as it is and click OK and then restart your machine, and it should bring the UFT. And one other thing you have to do on the IE, enable the HPE. If it's disabled, the enable from the IE, just enable it and you should be good.
Say it again. How about Microsoft Office?
Microsoft Office, yeah, we'll take care of that in other afternoon. Just let me know when you are available, because that's the different installation. All you have to do, just download it and leave it in your computer. When it comes to installation, we'll take care of that. Okay.
Yeah, Shamsuddin, it's a different topic or requirement or suggestions.
Yeah.
So practicing while one of you is teaching, for me, sometimes it's gonna prolong the session, make tedious, repetitive stuff on the.
Oh no, the reason why is we both are doing it because it's a longer session. Second of all, we are both covering like different materials, basically covering in different way. So you get the idea of, like, if let's say looping statement or any if else statement is not making sense in one point of view, so you have another like example or another way of explaining. So you kind of get both flavors and kind of get understanding of what it's actually meant to. But most of the items we'll both cover in the same way. It just
okay.
All right, so I'll come back at 1:15 and
go over it again. The next upcoming steps on the installation is done. What should I do again?
What you will see a pop up is gonna say finish or okay, and if you finish, just finish it and then restart your machine. And once you start, open your IE and select on the tools. There is something called add-in manage add-ons or add-in manager, and there you will see a HPE engine, and you just have to enable that. And when it comes to, if you don't see that, just knock me and I'll show you. It's just a 5-minute thing I need to show you. but
Sure.
make sure you restart the machine after the installation. Okay.
Got it.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I just need some help with the UFT installation. What add-ins should I add other than Java? Do I add Java? I have ActiveX, Visual Basic, and Web add-in.
Can I see your screen? If I make you a presenter, just accept the request and share your screen. So I'm just going to quickly just show you what to do.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm going to delay the guys, but
no worry. I mean, I'll let you keep on installing, and we're going to start this session in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Did you get the?
Send me the request for sharing the screen?
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of to do, so.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah, let's see.
So where are you at? Are you like you are installing right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are some add-ons managers pop up, and you want to select.
Yeah, basically, I'm in HPE Unified Function Testing setup.
Okay, let me take the screen back and share again. I'll give you the presenter right one more time, so you'll see something called to share your screen. Do you see that now?
No.
Okay, so what we'll do after this session, I'll stay a little bit longer. And
after the session, we can work it out. Okay.
All right, great.
I don't want to delay everybody's. Well, it just popped up the sharing of the screen. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. It's okay. You'll once you get how to do that, I mean, the future class it won't be a problem sharing the screen. All right. So let's go over a few things and then we'll start. So we are covering the UFT automation with the VB script, and today's the date is here. My name is Shamsuddin, and my email ID is my first name dot last name at cyberboolean.com, and my number 703-332-9427, and you can visit our site cyberboolean.com. The information that I provided, if you have any questions, you can directly email me or directly call me. So let's answer a couple of questions. So registration. If you signed up on the cyberboolean.com registration and you put in info, you are good. You are done registration, and there are some administrative work we have to do on our end. So that's why you did not receive the confirmation and details information regarding the registration. What would be the next step? So since this is our first session, and we want you all to actually focus on learning, put aside financial things and other stuff, because our goal is to help you find a job, and once you find a job, that time we can take care of financial stuff, and as well as people who are having difficulties, financial issues, we'll take care of individually, and you will receive an email, each of you, about like how to make the payment and where to go in few days. The classroom. So the classroom this is the session, right? We are meeting every Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we sometimes go a little longer depending on how the class is actually going on. The link to the classroom is provided here, and also you received an email with the link, and you can dial in the number as well as the access code. Next thing I want to go over with the discussion. Many of you already did the the group session, and I see a significant improvement by joining the group session. and many of you actually asked very good questions and encountered many problems, and we went through, troubleshoot those, and try to fix, what are the errors, and be able to give you better explanation on, how to troubleshoot those and overcome those issues. So I would recommend each of you at least, join the group session, and whenever you're available, and also, contact us by sending email to me or to the group or the other email address, inquiry@sagarboolean.com, and let us know if you want to do a separate group session where you are available. And, I know that, most people work on the weekdays, weekend, different hours. So we want to make sure, you are, joining in one of the group sessions, whichever is convenient. If there is a need for any other group session, we'll open those up also. So at this moment, you can join the group session by clicking on this link, or you receive the email that provides the link information. The group sessions, currently we are doing it on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. On Wednesday, 7 to 10 p.m. On Thursday and Friday, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Whenever you're available, please join those. These are the session where, you will ask questions in more, anything that you think is not appropriate to ask at this moment, or you want to do it individually, one-on-one, and, make sure you understand the material. And the second thing is a mentoring session. We are going to launch a mentoring session starting from next week, which is starting from Monday, and it will happen during the day, anytime you are available. So this is basically you running the show. So one of you will volunteer, whoever wants to show whatever you learned so far. You want to explore that, let people explain it to others, like what you understood, and if it makes sense, and what you did not understand. Share your ideas with another group members, or another students, and make sure you get the materials covered if you do not understand anything. And this will be done by one of you, be a organizer like I'm doing right now, and do the presentation and show what you've done and what you learned, and basically more of a discussion among the groups, and clear up some of this stuff. So that's like open for anyone, anytime. All you have to do, let me know in the email and group windows, which I will create shortly. And then the after classroom session, we are trying to see if anyone need help after this class. We'll continue as long as you need after 2:30. And the homework. So homework and the class materials and where to find it, I actually did coverage for that last time. I'm just gonna briefly remind you one more time, so you have that, in your folder. So if you go to your Google Drive, you log into Gmail, and once you log into Gmail, you click on Drive, and if you click on Drive, it's gonna bring you to the Drive, right? And you should be able to see folders, couple of folders here. If you do not see anything, just click on shared with me, and you should be able to see those in here. So if you go to the first one, what I was showing is the CV student, right? Google Drive and the CV student. If you click on it, it has class notes and the softwares, right? If anyone did not install, download, install software, click on software UFT and download this folder, unzip it, and then you have the instruction in the main folder, class notes. And if you go to the class note, it has a SDLC manual document, everything by the class date, and it tells you all the documents you need to study on if you want to go through, read through, the theoretical part. And then we have a UFT automation folder, and that's also go by date. Everything you need for the the class, individual week of class, it will store here. So if we go to last session, we have the study material, and here you will find any relevant object repository, record and playback, and notes, and all the documents that we actually covered so far. And if you go to today's week, you'll see the document that I'm working on it. If you open this one, you'll see the same document I'm in, and it is shared with everyone. So you have it, and there are the planning that I'll be coming back to this document shortly after. Okay, so we did the class, and then assignments, same thing. You go back to the drive. If you click on my shared with me, you see the folder called assignment. In the assignment, you have the week, and let's say if you want to click on 23rd, which is the last week, and there is assignment given. Many of you already did, and you will receive a feedback if there is anything you need to figure. So you will get the comments on your assignment sometimes this week. The next part I want to show is the homework. So where you actually submit your homework. So if you go to your drive again, let me go back, my drive, and then click on shared with me, and there is something called CV underscore your first name and your last name. In my case, it's my first name and last name. Once you open that, you will get an assignment link. You will store all your homework assignment here. So every time you do something, upload it in this folder. This is the folder where you will be storing your homework or any assignment you do. Anything you want to share with us, make sure you did it correct and store it here. So that we know where to find the homework, class materials, and the assignments. Next thing, I want you all to download Google Hangout. This is the chat we will be using throughout our UFT session. Anything you have related to UFT, any question, instantly you can ask, and someone so it is basically group collaboration between all the classmates and the instructor. So you will have, if you have any certain questions during the day, you just ask question. If anyone else wants to answer, they can answer it, or they can provide additional information. If not, we'll also keep track of things, and we'll share all the files and folders in this location, so you will have it in the Google Drive as well. So I want you all to go to this link, and in your mobile device or your laptop, go in there and download it. Let me share that link if you don't have it. And I have the chat window open in my another tab. I'll do it. And I'm just going to add few folks here. If you can provide me your email ID, like I already have some, but I want to actually validate that. Can you just put it on the chat to myself, only Cyberbullion, not everyone. Just put your email ID, and I'm going to add you to the group, so you will start receiving a text and messages and details, information, any class materials or anything on this chat, and we'll keep on continue to do the collaboration and discussion here. So if you can actually give me the email ID, Gmail email ID that you use, and put it on the chat, and only to me, not to everyone. When you click on the, if you go to, can you all see the chat window here? On the chat window, provide your Gmail ID, and I'll add it to you. Okay. Hello? Are you hearing me, guys? Can you listen? Yeah, okay, I got one email ID.
I can hear you, but I don't see your name on.
Okay, share it to the Cyberbullion, no. Cyberbullion, the organizer.
Got it. Okay, got it.
And just to me, okay? I'm just gonna add you on the group, and I want you to reply, say hello, so I will know if you receive a notification saying, okay, you were added. And okay. I sent you an invitation in your Hangout. Just say hello. First of all, you have to accept it. Okay, I see. All right, I'm getting
Chef
the
Sadine, I couldn't
message.
see your name on the people
Share it with
here.
the cyberbullion.
Cyberbullion?
Yeah, and I will accept it. You'll see the invitation from Shamsuddin at cyberbullion, and I'm adding. Okay. Right. I'm just gonna add people in there. So big brother, I added you. Oh. Open your the Hangout on your machine, the link I provided, and once you open it, log into your Gmail account, and you should see an invitation coming. Then you'll
Did you get mine?
So please confirm your reception, brother Shamsuddin, when you receive,
yeah, I'm getting in there. Okay, so just give me a moment. Let's go back to where we actually are right now. So I want you all to go to that link and basically download Notepad++. And the way you do it, you copy that URL. I put it on the chat window, and type it on your browser and just click enter. You will see a Notepad++. It's a Notepad++ is basically it's like a notepad you have on your machine, but this is more of like a for developer to use. Like if you want to code something, I want you to click on download, and once you click on download, it's going to start downloading in like 2 seconds, and you should have that downloaded, and you just basically install and follow the steps. And that's a small file you just need to download. And once you download it, you open it and then run it. Follow the steps, default steps. Nothing actually, option you need to select. It's just default, and be done with it. And once you have it, you will see something. Let's say I want to open something, and it's gonna give me like edit with Notepad++, right on the left side. And if you click on it, it's gonna look something like that. You see, you can write code here, and you do like a lot of stuff here. It's better readability. Okay, so if I close it and open the same file with a notepad, you see the difference. It's gonna look like this. So that's the difference between Notepad and Notepad++. There are more things actually you can do with Notepad++. So I want you to download and install it, and you will be using in the future class, but have it on your system so you can play with it. Right. So we can close that. I'm assuming everybody did that, and if not, the location is there, and this folder is gonna shared with you all in the shared download and install, right? And the videos is already, we gave you the temporary password
Sam,
username.
Sam,
Yes.
a quick question. So on my download, right, it says choose components. Like, do I click everything or just the first one?
Don't select anything, just select default and continue the process. That's basically nothing actually new you need to do. So if I downloaded it already, it should be on my download folder.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right. If you do, if you're still having an issue, just let me know.
It's hard to see the link. Can you just put it on the chat box?
Yeah, it's the last chat. I put it on the chat window. Just copy that. Tag HTTP.
No.
Or you can do like just follow this. You can just say okay, download. Just type download Notepad ++, right?
Got it. Thank you. I didn't see it.
And you just basically select the first one. And once you select it, it's going to bring you to the default, the available latest version of Notepad++, which is 7.5, and click on download on the left side. And once it's downloaded, just basically you just follow the steps it tells default. It's just few steps, 2-3 steps, and you're done with it. There is no need to restart your machine or anything. It's a small executable file, and that's it. So going back to the videos, videos is in our site. If you have provided the temporary password and username, and go there and review those videos whenever you have a time. You don't need to wait for 3 hours to complete, but you can just look into where you get confused with or you did not understand. Watch it once and then practice it. And then if then you are not sure with what does it say in the group session to cover, make sure you understood the materials. Did anyone have a question? Anyone?
Yeah, I have a question. Okay, so I downloaded it, right? I installed it, and it got saved on my C drive program files, right? So how do I make it pinned to my make an icon on my desktop?
If you go in your files, Windows.
Oh yeah, I think I got it. Yeah.
You should be able to see it here and scroll it down if you don't see it.
Yeah,
it should be somewhere
thanks,
here.
I got it.
And pin it to your taskbar, and that should cover up.
Yeah, thanks, man. I got it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So now we are actually I'll actually briefly go over a few things that we covered so far. So first, last two classes we covered introduction to UFT, what UFT does and why we use it, and then we did the installation. Anyone who did not, we completed, and there are few folks actually still having issue in installation. So I already gave the location where to install, download, and install. And if there are any problem, we are here to set up the installation. Once the installation part is done, we did the environment setup. Basically, what we did, we had the tools and we did the tool settings. Some settings we did. We went to configuration, edit, and did the font color and change the color format and string color. So we have done this. I'm not going to go over. I want you just to show what we have covered so far. And then we did the record and playback. We did analog recording. We did normal recording. We did the low-level recording and the inside recording. There are several recordings. These are for interview. Basically, we're not going to use a lot of recording. Most of the usage will use the object repository, and that will be our recording part we'll be doing. The object repository we covered local and shared object repository. We distinguish what are they and why we use it. And we did it moderate part, not as extensive. I'm going to go over this more, and it will come over and over many times. So this is very important. object repository. This is what actually identifies object on the page. Then we actually did the actions, and we covered types of actions. We know that you can create a call to an action, which is a new action, and then you can copy of an existing action. You can reuse the existing action, and you can modify the copy of an action. Then we actually briefly covered data tables, like how you can get the data from the data table that's going on the tool. Like if you go to view data table, and this is the data table, and how to parameterize data table into your script. Next part we actually did like one checkpoint or two, not extensive. We'll go over this again. Then Greg actually brought out the concept of functions and what are the functions. He did brief of it. This part we'll be using over and over, and we'll go how to create different functions for the graphical user interface, which is a web page in our current situation, and how to create a functions for an object, and all will be covered in the future session, and come back to it. This is a very broad topic, and it will be covered in the framework sessions, and throughout, like, every session you will see it, and you will get clear understanding it at some point. Then we covered the variables, types of variables, strings, integer, and so on. And we also covered the data type. As I mentioned, the variables are, you define the variables as a dim statement, saying as a dim, and you saw that. And then we also covered the data types, like, if it's a string or integer or a float or Boolean or anything that's available in the tools. So we mostly work with the string and integer. And then we did some conditional statements, which is the if else statement, and we did the switch statement. We will do it over and over. So these things will come from here at this point to here. These are the things we'll go, every session. Pretty much every session we'll have this. But at some point we might retire the object repository and become a descriptive programmer. So we'll actually write all codes in the IDE. Then we did the switch statement. Switch statement is the same as case statement in UFT. We did a little bit on that, and then Greg covers the loops statement, for loop, while loop, and do while. These are very important features. Will be covered more in details, and we'll continue extensively use these items. And this is gonna put it as a mark, so we know that this is gonna come back again and again. And then I want to ask you, like, if you have any general question that you think, in the previous sessions, you need information or you are lost or something, and I can set you up with the group sessions and individual sessions or videos, whichever way. Let me know if you have any questions regarding all the previous sessions that we did. So far we did 2 sessions, and today is our 3rd session for UFT. Okay, so no question yet. Then I want to highlight the test automation planning. I want to go over, like, the test automation that we do in recording and playback, and how we are actually coming into a automation testing, and make sure you understand the concept of automation. And we will go over with the planning from the very beginning, planning, and then we will prepare a test plan, test scenario, and test data, how to do the data, get the data, and how you can actually utilize those. Let me scroll it down. So this is what our, and then, so we'll cover the, prepare the test plan, test scenario, which is a test case, and the data, input data. Then we'll do the identify the object, from the application. So we did deal with the object repository. So that's object repository, right? And we'll cover more in-depth details on that. And then we'll do the add object repository to local object repository. We did briefly cover how to add into a local observatory, and we did something called object repository, which is shared. So we'll share the object repository and explain you how it actually works. So that part is done. That part we did cover a little bit in a brief, and then assign a logical names to the object property. So it's basically the objects. Whenever we record an object, it gives a name. So for example, if I go back to my tools just to give you a little bit understanding of the so if I click on spy, and I'm just going to click on something, anything, and I have something added, right? I can add to my object. I'm going to mute. Okay, there was some sound background sound. I muted all. When you have a question, please unmute yourself and ask the question. So the logical name is this name to make it readable. So whatever you give a name to it, let's say you are trying to click on a web page and you want to change the name of it. So the way you do it, you go to your object repository. You can go it from here, or you can click on the action and then local, and then this is the name I'm talking about. So you can change the name, whatever the name you want to put, logical names, right? I'm just putting, and it will change it, the name here, and it will also change the name here. All right, so that's the naming you want to use, because when you record it, the tool actually identify whatever the name it is written in the backend, and it takes that name. And if it's not logical, it doesn't make sense, you can change it and assign a logical name that makes sense to you or as a user. Then we want to do the object spy. I just did the object spy, and I'm going to explain a little bit more as we go on the planning, because we will be spending maybe a few sessions on this and come up with a framework solution. And then we'll explain the object identification. How does the object identify when we record? And we'll explain what is the smart identification, and the browser objects, page, and the child objects. So which are child objects would be like, okay, so you say web button, right? You type web button and web list. These are child objects inside a page. We'll come back and explain it more details. And then we did actually write basic VB script for our test scenarios, like logging into the Google or opening a Google browser or a mortgage calculator and input some parameter and do some transaction. Those are like kind of test scenario, but very basic stuff we did. We'll do the create VB script test parameter variable. So when you did the script, you did pass some variables here. Like when you had something like, okay, I want to set value, right? I'm just going to say set value. It is not an option available. So you put some, okay, you put some data here inside the string and you pass that value into the web page. This is the parameterization. This is what it's called, parameterization, and you declare a variable. Then we did do the briefly on debugging. When you do after you record the session, you run your script and you run it in a debug mode, so you can actually see each line, what it does, how it actually performing. And we did loops and condition briefly. We'll come back to it over again. Apply the concept of VB script functions. Briefly, Greg covered that. It will also come, and then we want to do a logic, create a logic to do the transaction. So we're writing some VB script code on our tools to apply, like if these things happen, what should I do? All what I do. So you want to apply the, if else statement, loops, and various loops, and if else statement, select statement, and all kinds of available functionality in the VB script. Then create logic to verify the test results from the application. So, we want to verify if I do a test, what would be my expected result? How do I know if the test is passed? And this type of logics will go into it. And the read the test data from external source. So meaning like if we want to pass, right now we are hard coding here or we are hard coding here. If I want to get those data from somewhere else, maybe let's say database or a Excel spreadsheet or a notepad or anything, how do we do that? We will cover that also, and then write our test results back to the spreadsheet or a database or a file that we want to write and report it back to our team or manager. So this is like a broad of like what we'll be covering, and it is shared in the folder. So you can, if you go to your Google folder under CB and class notes, you go to UFT, and if you go to today's date, week of 31st, and you have this document. If you open it, you will see any updates I make. You will see that on your screen. So you'll be able to follow up, and you don't have to write anything. So basically, when you open it, you'll see like everything I actually highlighted is there. As I'm typing, you will also see the types is happening by me. And if you open that folder file, you'll see that on your side. Okay, so going back to our test automation planning. So the planning, before we do the planning, we want to know, okay, let's say you start a job tomorrow. You are going to a job, let's say any company you join, and they provide you all the documentation, design document, and gives you the requirements to read, understand the application. And while you're doing that, you are hired as a test automation engineer. So your job is to automate the manual test cases and convert into automation so it can be repeatable and it saves a lot of time. So the user manual tester do not have to do a lot of regression or any repeatable tasks over and over. It can be done through the automation. So you want to plan the whole thing from the very beginning to the end of your execution. So first of all, you need to identify what application I'm testing and how it is developed, what technology is used. It will be given to you in the design document, explain in details how the application started from the beginning. So when you start working, you might see the application already built and they want to automate now, or you might join a company, they're just doing a planning part, the SDLC process, like SDLC, software development lifecycle. So they're just doing a planning. Basically, they want to identify what the end product would be, like what would be the product I'm gonna build to the end user, so user can use it. For example, in a Google page, you have something called like new feature added. Like let's say if I go to the my drive, and if I click on it, let's say tomorrow Google wants to add here, okay, let's say we want to do a video, the team meeting, like say just like a go-to meeting, they want to launch something similar to this and they add it, so you want to test that. So they will provide you all the information how to test it and what rules it involves, how actually you can write a test case and test scenario and automate that. All right, so and that's basically the starting point of your planning. So I created another document in the same week folder, and I just created. I didn't want to all you to write, so I did just a high level of this. You can use it for you and for your understanding, but we'll be enhancing we'll start working on this document, continue to work on it, and we will make sure, we are doing from the very beginning. So this is our, like, you just join as if you just started and you kind of gathering all the information, reading your info, and trying to find out how you want to automate. So when I joined it, I was given an application, and application his name is the salary calculator. In this demonstration, I'm going to use the salary calculator, and they gave me the URL. This is my URL. So if I go to this URL, and I'm just gonna go there. This is just a random URL I selected. I thought it's easier, small apps to automate. So my scenario is going to the salary application and be able to see this text, and I can type something, salary amount, and per hour how I'm getting the salary. Let's say if I were to do the manual part, if I say, okay, I'm getting $50 an hour, and I'm working 40 hours a week. Let's say I'm going to change few dates numbers here. I'm going to work. Let's say I'm working 45 hours, and I'm working 5 days. I have 10 holidays and 15 vacation days. And how much will be my salary based on this calculation? So it calculates number of days you will be on vacation. So these are paid vacation, let's say, and I click on hit calculate. So it gives me the it's actually still calculating. It's saying, okay, my annual salary would be 117K, and that is unadjusted, and it gives the details of what it means. So basically it just calculated based on the input I provided, and also provided some information based on if I were, let's say I don't accept holidays, I don't have holidays, and I don't have a vacation, how much would be my salary? It would be based on this. So 105K if we calculate it roughly. And with the without the vacation, this is what if I just want to withdraw the cash only, not taking the vacation or holidays. So our test scenario will be do a data-driven test, passing different sets of data, and make sure whenever I enter the salary and the type, payment type, I mean the hourly or daily or weekly or biweekly, however I want it. And if I select those and number of hours, I provide all this input. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 input data here. And if I do that with a different set every time, am I getting the correct value as a result as a user? So whenever developer coded this application, they actually coded in the backend, okay, saying if user input like 60K and click on calculate, it does some calculation in the backend and provide me the output. So I want to validate this, make sure it is providing the expected value I'm looking at. Okay, so critical error. Okay, let me close that. Not doing anything. Okay, let's close all tabs. You see something like crash or anything saying this has a virus in that. Wow. Just now, so my firewall actually threw an exception saying, okay, there was a virus in this page. So I'm not going to use this page. All right, let's wait it come back, and then bear with me a few seconds, please.
It's work fine for me. Just play the.
All right, it closed up. Okay, so just to give an example of like how you want to calculate, so we can use different website, maybe mortgage calculator. This is not probably the right site to use. Just type mortgage. So we'll stick with the same one, mortgage calculator, and we are going to this site. So, all right. So yeah, same thing, same format. I mean, same explanation. You have an application, you provide input data, and you want to get some output, right, based on whatever the data you provided, and it should calculate correctly. If the calculation is right, so you will have a input data and the output data, and it will be provided to you what to use, or they will tell you to maybe generate a input data randomly, and based on how the application behaves, and we'll create that. So let's change that to mortgage calculator, and we're gonna say okay, the mortgage calculator application. And so this is how we use the web application functionality testing overview, and our application name, mortgage calculator, URL. This is the URL, and then we have a browser. The requirement is to test it on a different browser. So in our case, we'll use Internet Explorer or Chrome, and the version we'll be using. So in my case, I have IE 11 and I have Chrome version 65. So whatever the requirements in the design document or the user requirements, it will be given, and you will be testing on based on that. And if I were to do manually this task, what I basically do, I have to open IE or Chrome. So let's open IE, and just going to close the mortgage calculator from here. Take the URL, and my IE opening up. And so if I were to do manually, I just go to the URL provided by the team and just insert the URL on the page, right? And I'm basically logging in right now to the. So some application may require you to authenticate. So let's say your application that you are testing, it may require you to provide a authentication or provide a username and password. Then it will be different look, and you have to put the provide that username and password and log into the system. And that would be another scenario. Okay, open the browser and log into the mortgage calculator or the application that you are testing. Okay. Taking some time to. Yeah, my mouse is automatically moving. I think I went to that site that's probably causing this. Okay. Bear with me a few seconds. Something is not right here.
No problem.
Okay, looks like it's just doing something. Okay,